Right now, in June and July, the bulls you're going to be hunting in September are out in the open, feeding in predictable patterns and basically showing you exactly where they live. And most elk hunters are completely ignoring them. That's either really good news or a little bit of a gut punch, depending on what you've been doing in June and July. Either way, we're going to fix it today. Here's what I see play out every single year. A lot of hunters spending June and July and a lot of August doing nothing specific to prepare. No scouting, no maps worked up, no wallows found, no cow groups located, and then they step into the mountains in early September with nothing confirmed, no elk sign, no real plan, just hope, and then complaining when nothing works out for them. And hope is not a strategy. The hunters who punch their tags consistently, they're not more talented, they're not hunting magic units, they just started in June. They know what the elk are doing right now, and they're using that information to build a September plan that's based on confirmed intel, not guesswork. So here's what we're going to do in this video. I'm going to walk you through exactly what to do in June and July to set yourself up for September. We're covering bachelor bulls in velvet, how to locate cow groups, finding and marking wallows, locking up your map layers, and confirming the zones you're actually going to hunt. By the end of this, you're going to have a complete scouting system, not just a list of tips, a system that you can start executing this week. Now, real quick, if you're new here, here's what you need to know about me. I've been hunting and guiding Western big game for over 34 years, and most of that time was spent chasing elk, mule deer, bear, and pronghorn on public land, and I've been fortunate enough to hunt around the world. I'm also a professional strength conditioning and nutrition coach, over 30 years in that world, and I spent a big chunk of my earlier years competing as an elite distance runner and then a bodybuilder. All of that time in the mountains and all of that coaching experience and athletic experience have shaped a pretty specific way of looking at elk hunting for me. Systematic, physical, strategic. Everything I share on this channel is built from real experience, and my goal is simple. I want to help you become a more successful and more consistent elk hunter. That's it. All right, let's get into it. The first thing to understand about July elk is that bulls and cows are living completely separate lives right now, and that separation actually works in your favor as a scout. Bulls in July are in their summer zones, right? Usually at higher elevations on north and northeast facing slopes, in parks and meadow edges, and that's where there's good feed and cooler thermals that give them some relief from the heat and the bugs. And here's a detail that a lot of hunters overlook. Bulls in velvet avoid the thick stuff. Velvet racks are sensitive. They're loaded with blood vessels, and a bull's not going to be punching through dense willows and dogwood in July. He wants open country, and that means he's more visible, and that's a gift to us. What you're hunting for right now is bachelor herds. 2, 3, 4 bulls feeding together in a high country park at first light. That kind of sighting tells you everything. It tells you there's quality habitat, good feed, a reason to be there. And even though those bulls are going to scatter and shift when the velvet drops and the rut kicks in, a confirmed bachelor herd in July gives you a solid starting point for the fall. So don't underestimate it. Now here's the play. Get out early, and I mean boots on the ground, glass in hand before the sun hits early. Bulls in July are feeding in the open during the first hour or two of light, then they're in the shade and bedded cover by mid-morning. You want to be set up on a high vantage point, a ridge, a saddle, a bench, glassing every park, every meadow, every edge, every timber opening you can reach with your optics. You're looking for that horizontal body shape, that chocolate brown color, and the unmistakable silhouette of velvet antlers catching the early light. Mark everything you see. Every bull, every location, every time of day goes on your map right there with a descriptive note. Label it. Bachelor bulls, July 14th, 6:15 a.m. Even if those specific bulls aren't standing in the exact spot come September, you're going to know that's quality summer habitat. And that information carries real weight when you're building your fall plan. One more thing on this. Don't bump them. If you find bulls in a park, glass them from a distance, right? Confirm what you're seeing and back out cleanly. An educated July bull becomes a more paranoid September bull. So observe, note, and leave. That's the discipline right there. If there's one piece of advice I could give you that would do more for your September success than anything else, it's this. Find the cows. I know that sounds really simple and I've talked about it before, but a lot of elk hunters don't do it. They spend all their scouting time looking for big bulls and they completely overlook the animal that actually determines where the action happens. Elk are a herd animal, right? And cows are the nucleus. During the rut, which is exactly when your archery season hits, bulls don't decide where things go down. Cows do. Bulls follow cows. They always have and they always will. So if you spend July identifying where your cow groups are living, feeding, and bedding, you're going to essentially have pre-scouted where the bulls are going to be when it counts most. Cow groups are actually easier to locate than bachelor bulls right now. They're less pressured, less wary this time of year, and they're vocal. You might hear them before you ever see them. They're in family groups, the cows, the calves, the yearlings, and they're creatures of habit. They're using the same feed areas, the same drainages, the same travel routes they've used for years. Elk country has a rhythm to it, and cow groups are on that beat. What you're looking for is the transition, the zone where summer feed connects to bedding cover. Picture a north-facing slope with good grass on the lower third and dark timber above it. That's a classic September elk setup, right? We've talked about that a lot. The cows are feeding in the grass in the mornings and the evenings. They're bedding in the timber during the day, and they're watering at a creek or a wallow in between. That triangle, that feed, bed, water, is the set address you're trying to find right now. And when you find it, mark it, layer it on your map, and don't walk through it again until September. Hey, if you hunt public land elk and you're tired of grinding through random seasons, I built the elk hunting series of ebooks for you. Most hunters don't struggle because they lack effort. They struggle because they lack a system. And that's exactly why I built the elk hunting ebook series as a complete progressive framework for Western elk hunters who are done guessing and ready to hunt with intention. Volume 1 is going to be Foundations and Reality. I reset your mindset and expose the assumptions that quietly wreck seasons. In Volume 2, Finding Elk and Understanding Pressure, you'll learn how elk actually move under pressure so you can anticipate instead of react. In Volume 3, Terrain, Wind, and Position, I break down how to use landscape and thermals to consistently create opportunities. In Volume 4, Calling, Silence, and Pressure, sound becomes a decision tool, not an impulse. In Volume 5, Bow Hunting Execution, we're talking about close range strategy so you can finish your encounters. And in Volume 6, Late Season and Post-Rut, we're talking about how elk shift after the rut and how to adapt when others quit. This is a system built for consistency. This isn't theory. It's a structured system to help you find elk, read country, and make confident decisions every season. Buy each volume individually or bundle them all to save 50% off at backboneunlimited.com. Now, this one's a bit of a hidden gem in July scouting, and honestly, it's one of my favorite pieces of the whole system. Elk wallows are active right now. In July heat, bulls are going to be hitting those wallows pretty regularly, and not just for the rut behavior you're going to see in September. They're hot. They want to cool down. They're a big animal, so they coat themselves in the mud, and they get some relief from the insect while they're at it. And that means the wallows that are going to be your best bet in the early season hunting setups in September are being used and conditioned right now, and they're leaving fresh and readable sign. So when you're scouting, look for wallows in the same corridors where you've located your cow groups and identified water. They're usually tied to a seep, a spring, a small pond, or just a muddy low spot in the creek, right? On the map, look for drainages with consistent moisture, darker vegetation in a tight area, or low depressions that would hold water. Then you've got to put boots on it to confirm, right? Fresh wallow sign in July looks like churned wet mud, a strong musky smell you're going to notice before you see it, and tracks, hoof prints, and knee impressions where bulls have been laying around and getting down into it. You might see broken brush around the perimeter or hair pressed into the mud and a depression worn smooth from repeated use. Find all of that together and you found gold. Pin it on your map and treat it that way. Now here's the tactical value. Wallows are ambush points. In early archery season, before the rut's fully cranked up and bulls are still responding to heat, they're hitting those wallows late morning to midday. So a 30-yard setup downwind of an active wallow can be one of the highest percentage bow setups of the entire season. But you've got to know where the wallow is before you can hunt it, and that work starts right now. Now, if you run trail cameras, this is exactly where to put one, right? A camera on an active July wallow Wallow is going to tell you which animals are using it, how often, and what time of day they're showing up. There's almost no better preseason intel you can collect. Everything you're finding on the ground is going to get multiplied when it's layered on top of solid e-scouting. And July is absolutely the right time to get your digital homework dialed in before August gets hectic. Here's how I approach it. I'm working on X, right? But it doesn't matter, whatever mapping platform you prefer. And I'm building out a specific layer for everything I've confirmed. Bull sightings, cow groups, wallows, water sources, bedding zones, feed areas, and access route. I'm also using the satellite view to identify terrain features I still need to ground truth later on, like north-facing benches and creek bottoms that connect the drainages and the saddles that elk use to move from one basin to another. The single most important thing here I'm looking for on maps in July is connectivity. How does an elk actually get from summer range to September range? What's the most logical travel corridor? Where are the pinch points, the saddles, the ridge crossings, the creek confluences, where multiple travel paths all funnel through one spot? Those pinch points are going to become your most strategic ambush setups in September. I'm also mapping access with real intention. Where's the best trailhead? How far is the walk in? Is there a different approach from another direction that keeps me out of the morning thermals on my primary zone? All of this gets worked out now in July when you've got time and a clear head, not at 3 a.m. in September when you're running on 4 hours of sleep and a cup of instant coffee. Cross-reference your e-scouting notes with what you've confirmed on the ground. If your map suggested a seep in a certain drainage and you found an active wallow there on foot, that cross-reference locks that location into your hunt plan with real confidence. That's not a guess anymore. That becomes a target. Now, this is where everything comes together into an actual plan you can hunt. By the time you've done this July work, the glassing for Bachelor bulls, the cow group locations, the wallow finds, the map layering, and the access confirmation, you should have 2 or 3 zones you can walk into on opening morning with real confidence. Not hope, confidence. And that right there is the difference between a hunter who's just out there and a hunter who's actually hunting with a plan. I want you to have a primary zone, your best setup based on everything you've confirmed on the ground and on the map. Then a backup zone for when your primary gets bumped by other hunters or the elk have shifted. And if you can build it, a third option for a different phase of the season. Maybe a lower elevation setup for when the rut peaks and bulls start pushing cows down out of the high country. Last thing, write it down. Don't just keep it in your head. Put your zones on paper or in a notes app with your reasoning behind each and every one of them. That process forces you to actually think through the logic of your plan. It's going to be your anchor on day 5 of your hunt when you're tired, a little frustrated, and trying to decide whether you should stay or move. You're going to have something real to come back to. July isn't downtime. July is the month that determines what happens in September. Now, if this video made you realize your elk plan needs some work before September, that's actually a good thing because you still have time to do something about it. But don't just watch another video and let the information sit there. Build your plan now. If you want to study my full elk system on your own, start with my elk hunting ebook series at backboneunlimited.com. It's the foundation where I give every hunter I work with 34 years of Western elk hunting experience built into a system you can actually follow and repeat. If you want daily guidance, accountability, and a community of serious hunters to work through the season with, come join Team Backbone with me. It's a place to ask questions, stay sharp, and stay accountable as September gets closer. And if you want my eyes directly on your actual hunt plan, your specific maps, your access routes, your terrain, your pressure points, your wind, and your thermal strategy, book an elk hunt plan audit with me, and I'll go through it with you personally and help you tighten it up before you ever set foot in the mountains. Now, if your body's the weak link right now, your legs, your lungs, your ability to handle mountain miles with a loaded pack day after day, my Backbone Unlimited training plans are built specifically for that. And if nutrition is where you need more structure, whether that's getting leaner before season, fueling long days in the field, or dialing in your in-season food plan, my nutrition plans are going to take care of that too. Here's the bottom line. The hunters who are ready in September are the ones who started tightening the plan in July. That's just how it works. So head to backboneunlimited.com, choose the path that fits where you are right now, and I'll help you get there. I appreciate every one of you for being here. I really do. Drop your questions in the comments below. You know I read every one of them, and I will get back to you. Until next time, train harder, hunt smarter, and never settle.